Welcome to Villamania YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we are going to do something new. We are going to use the loom to create a bracelet. So obviously for that we need a loom and we will need some materials about which I'll talk later. I wanted to start with my loom because it's actually handmade by my husband, so it's a little bit unusual, even though it is a prototype of something we found online. We live in Europe, so for us it's a little bit hard to ship things from United States. So we actually took an example of another loom and I asked my husband to recreate it for me. So let me first walk you through what my loom actually looks like and what it does. So the side view of my loom is like this. It's a wooden base, and then it has these two parts with a curved cut down here and down here. So this part is stable, it's fixed, it's with the screws sort of connected to the base. And then this part is actually moving, so I can move it back and forth. And then I have those little things to connect and to position my part so that it's stable. So I literally just screw them from one side and also from the other side, so that this thing is also stable. And that is the portion where I'm going to make the beading. Then also I have those two metallic things. I hope you can see them. They are going to be positioned either here for the bracelet level. Sometimes I'm also using the lower part down here, so I can put this metallic thing lower. One goes to that side and another goes to this side. And here we will be putting our threads for the bracelet, okay? And then I also have those wooden things. They are going to hold the thread, and I have a few holes here so that when I put the thread, I'll put this thing inside so that it actually holds my thread when I'm doing the loom work. So that's how it looks. So I have flexibility on the length. I also have flexibility on the height, and then I can put as many threads as possible. One more thing, the reason this part is curved is because when you put the thread, you actually put it on the spool, and sometimes the spool is big, so there's enough space for the spool to go from that side to here and then backwards, so until I put as many threads as I need. So that's how my loom looks. You can use any loom, whatever, for the same work. You can buy a lot of them on Amazon or on AliExpress. Sometimes they're plastic, sometimes they're with metallic these holders. They are really different. I'm just using this one because I have it. And I'm already very comfortable working with it, and I'm comfortable I know how to put the things in place. Sometimes I also remeasure. I will show to you how to do all of that stuff with the measuring and with the spools. I just wanted to walk you first through for the loom, which I'm going to use for this tutorial. Looming process is actually very repetitive. It's of course depends on your design, but there are going to be a lot of rows, and in this tutorial we are not going to go through the process end to end. I'm just going to show you how to start the loom piece, which methodology sort of to use, how to put the beads on, and then maybe I'll do another couple of shorts as while I'm in the process, and then I'll also show you the end of the process so that you understand how the work is started and how the work is finished. I'm going to use this normal white thread. I hope you can sort of see it. It's just normal thread like this. It's cotton. And I'm going today create a bracelet which will have 6 rows. So for 6 rows, we will need 7 threads because there is one at the edge from the left side and there is one at the edge from the right side. So actually to put 6 beads, you need 7 threads. So every time you're making something on the loom, count your rows. If, for example, you have like 10 rows, that means you'll need 11 threads. If you have 5 rows, 5 beads in a row, then you need 6 threads. So always plus 1 thread to do the beading. And the way I'm doing it using my loom is the following. So I put the edge of the thread into this tiny cut which I have in my wooden stopper. And then I just rotate the needle a few times so that it's stable. And then I put my first stopper into this hole so that it stays here and it's stable. That gives the tension to my thread. Okay. Now I will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 threads. Now I cut the thread, and then I put this end onto the second stopper, and I'm just repeating the process. I'm just rolling it down, putting some tension already into the thread, and then I will insert the stopper on the other side of my loom down here. And now to put additional tension, all I need to do is just to roll this stopper so that the thread is tensed. Okay. And then I will also do that on that side. Just a little. Now we have these 7 threads which are positioned, or actually I will just move this close to my work. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 threads on the loom, and that will give us a bracelet which will be consisting of 6 beads. Okay. You can always measure the length, and I prefer to measure the length when the thread is already tensed, because that will give me the exact size. This one will be 14 centimeters and like 8 millimeters. That would be enough, because we will also add the closing clasps and we will also add the hook. That will give me the bracelet of like approximately 16 centimeters, which is normal size I'm using. I'm always doing the extensions for the bracelet, so they are multi-measured. But in order for you to make a bigger one or a smaller one, before you start putting the beads, measure that size, the size when the thread is already tensed. At that stage, you can still increase it, right? So if you need a longer one or a shorter one, you can still unfasten this stopper and move this thing further or closer, depending upon which length of the bracelet you will need. Since it's a tutorial, for me that size is all right, so we will be using that setup. So we made the setup for the threads, for the loom, for the sizing, for the amount of threads. We're now ready to go, and we're ready to do the beading work itself. For the horizontal threads, you can actually use any thread you are comfortable to work with. I'm going to use the same thread as we already put onto the loom. It's actually quite dense. It's not twisting. It's type of all right for me. I often use this thread for the beading work, for the loom. I'm going to use the beading needles, probably size 10. We will see. Either 10. I have 10 and 12 here, but I think I'm going to use the 10. So I'm going to use Miyuki Delica number 351 for the white color. Then I'm going to use Beige 208 for their line. And then I'm also going to have some splash of gold. This is Miyuki Delica 110. And I'm going to have a very simple bracelet. So it's going to be the rhythm, like, I don't know, maybe 5 rows of white, then beige gold, then another 5 rows of white, beige gold, another 5 rows of white, beige gold. So it's going to be repetitive until we make it to the end. For such bracelet, I wouldn't calculate the precision because for me, it doesn't matter for the moment. It's not a specific ornament. Leave us a comment if you want me to explain to you how do I calculate the bracelet, or how do I do the patterns, if I need a specific size, and what is my approach, how I calculate the number of the beads in every row. It is also important for the loom, unlike it is in peyote stitch, to use a longer needle. So your needle should be longer than the width of your bracelet. I know sometimes it's like impossible because sometimes the bracelet is too wide. That's the size of my needle. So it actually covers the full width of my bracelet. So I can actually put the beads and put the needle through in just one move. I don't need to do a couple of the threading through the threads here. So that's the needle I'm going to use. And then I just spool, I don't know, some amount of the thread. I put it through my needle. And then at the end of this thread, we will also put the stop bead. So I put the thread into the needle, it's one strand. And then I will also put a stop bead at the very end of the thread. It is important, especially for loom, the stop bead is really important for you to create your first few rows of the loom. You will need the tension of the thread. We'll put the stop bead at the end, okay? Now I will just throw some beads so that they are at hand. Some white ones. And just a little bit of beige and gold. Try to remove all the extra objects because they might interfere with the work you're going to do here at the loom. Now we're ready and we can start. So as I said, our bracelet is 6 beads long. So what I'm going to do for the start is just pick up 6 beads all at the same time. That is going to be our first row. 6 beads. And I pull them through until they reach my stop bead. Okay, just like this. Now, what you need to do, these are the vertical threads. This is the first horizontal thread. So the way you're going to do the loom work is going to be the following. You put your needle with a thread under the vertical threads. And then you very carefully position your beads so one is in between every vertical thread. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So one bead between 2 pieces of the thread. Another one bead between 2, another. So there is a thread, a bead, a thread, another bead, another thread, another bead, etc. until you reach the end of your work. So our horizontal thread is under the vertical ones. And then with our needle, all you need to do is to go above your vertical threads and just put your needle through all 6 which you put at their thread. And now all you need to do is just to pull your needle through and tighten it as much as you can do for the first row. The first row is tricky, don't worry. It's okay. But at some point of time, that's the way your bracelet is going to look. Let it flow for the first row, it's okay. We can do the second one. I think by the third row, the work will become more or less clear and you will be able to understand. Again, I'm pulling my thread under the vertical lines, picking up another 6 beads. Placing the beads again in between my 6 vertical directional lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now with my needle, I again go on top of the vertical thread. And then I pull it through. Okay. Maybe I will stop it a little bit closer. Okay. Second row. Now the tension is becoming bigger, so the beads are slightly moving closer to each other. Again, moving the thread under the vertical ones, putting another 6. Positioning them between the vertical threads. As always with any beading, like don't rush your work, or we are not in a hurry. Just be careful and be patient with the first few rows. Actually, as with any beading, the first 4 rows are complicated. If it's a little bit hard to position the beads in the right places, just do them one by one. So 1, 2. Make sure that your needle always goes on top of the vertical threads when you return. Just like this. Pull it through. You can also try to move your threads a little bit closer to your work, that the beads are more sticking more closer to each other. It is already getting closer to what our bracelet will look like when we do the final piece. So that's how it looks like. Let's do a couple of more rows. So we pull the thread underneath the vertical directional threads. Okay. Put 6 beads. You can see now the threads are closer together, so now it's a little bit easier to spread the beads and put them into the right lines. And with the needle, we go on top of the vertical ones. And maybe we will do one more row. And with the needle, we go on top. Okay. Let me now shoot a video which is closer to the work, and I'll be back. This is how work is actually looking from the close dimension. So I can show it to you like that's the way the beads are sitting. That's our stop bead. And these are the 5 rows we put together for now. Before we can continue, what we need to do, this is going to be the beginning of our bracelet, right? So we need to put it as close to the lower holder. So very carefully, I'm going to move all of my rows as close to the beginning of the work as possible. So right now, all my beads are actually at the beginning down here. And that's the start of our bracelet. And from here, I'm going to move all the way up until I reach there, the upper part of the loom down here. So that's going to be my bracelet. Important that you start from the bottom, because when you will be finishing the bracelet, it's very important that your hand works on the upper part of the loom. Try to put them as close to each other as possible. Also, remember that if you want to have a bracelet like in my case, 6 white rows beige gold, 6 white rows beige gold, then you need to create one extra row down here for the clasp. So in the first row and in the last row, I hope we can make it 7 whites. The rest will be 6, but the first row and the second row will be 7 white rows because we will close one row with the clasp. So we made 5. Now we make another 2 whites. So I put 6 beads, position them. Put the needle through. That is 6. Another 6 beads. So the thread goes under with the beads. The beads, we place them for the right positions. And we go with our needle backwards, positioning the needle on top of the vertical thread. Okay. So we made our first 7 rows. Now I'm going to have maybe, let's see, maybe 2 beige. So 6 beige beads right now. The thread with beads goes under, positioning beads in their places. And with the needle, we go backwards above the vertical threads. Maybe I'll do 1 gold. So 6 gold beads. And 1 more beige. That's the design I'm actually sticking to. So 6 beige. From now on, we are going to be repeating the process. So I will change a little bit the position of my camera so that it's closer to the loom and so that you can actually see the work a little bit better. Maybe I'll do it from another angle. That's actually one of the reasons I was so resistant to do the tutorials for the loom, because it's actually quite hard to shoot because the loom is relatively big and I need to show it to you from top to bottom view. But then because of this angle, it's a little bit harder for you to see the work. So I'll reposition my camera and I'll be back. Okay, I repositioned my camera so that you can see the next rows from a little bit different closer angle. So let's see if that wash will work better. So now we're going into the standard rhythm where we're going to have 6 white beads and 6 rows like this, then beige, gold, and beige. So I put my thread under the vertical lines. I distribute the beads between the vertical directional lines carefully. And then with my needle, I'm actually going backwards through those 6 beads, positioning the needle above the vertical threads, just like this. pull the rows as close to each other as you can make it. Another row, 6 beads. Go with the needle backwards. Another one. We have a terrible rain today, so unfortunately I have to shoot under the light. Usually I prefer to do it in the daylights, but today the weather unfortunately is super gloomy and I had to switch on the ceiling light to shoot this video for you. So apologies for the shadows which you see all the time. Okay. Row number 4. Five. And 6. Now one beige, one gold, one beige. Again, pull the threads and try to put the rows as close to each other as you can make it. So these small hoops at the end are really, really small. When you'll be finishing the bracelet, that's really important that all the rows are as close together as possible. Now I will continue doing the same portions until I run out of thread so that I can show you how you change the thread as you go through your work. All right, so I'm back. I made like 1, 2, 3, 4 segments, and now I'm running out of my thread. I wanted to come back to show to you. Actually, you don't need to do anything. You just literally take the thread from your needle and leave this end free. We will close this and we will thread it later on when the bracelet is finished. Now you take this stop bead, which you used at the very beginning, and you just pull another 1.5 meter of the thread off through the needle and put a stop bead one more time. So I'm just taking some more thread, pulling it through the needle, and putting the stop bead back onto the end of the thread. That's pretty much it. So there is no complication here with the threading or putting like the pieces together. In the loom beading, it's actually very, very easy. I just put my stop bead, left a little bit of the end, and that is it. You just start the next row exactly as we started the first one. Put your thread under and put 6 beads. The only thing is that now, since you're starting the new row, you will have to hold your thread for connecting it. So I'm right-handed, so with my left hand I'm just positioning the beads to their places. Then I'm putting through the needle. Putting it through all the beads, exit. And pretty much that's it. So you just keep your stopping bead for some time so that your beads don't fall apart, but pretty much that is it. So now we can continue with our falling rows, and I will meet you later closer to the end of the work to show you how to finish the bracelet on top of our loom here. There are going to be a few complications, but I will explain to you in the end why actually I prefer this loom to other versions which I have, because with this work, finishing, and even though finishing is not that easy, it's a little bit complicated, but then there when you take the bracelet from the loom, you will not have a lot of fluffy ends of all the threads all over the place, and it will be actually easier to connect the pieces and the clasps together. So you will see that all. I know I sound a little bit puzzling maybe, but let's keep on working on the rows which are left to go, and I will meet you at the very end of the rows to show you how to finish the loom beading part of the bracelet. Okay, so I'll see you later. All right, so I'm getting closer to the end, and what I'm facing right now is you might face as well, so I decided to share it. I have this really small piece of thread left, and I have a choice. Either I'm trying to squeeze these 9 rows into this very small piece of thread which is left, which will be actually close to impossible, or I need to fix somehow this ending so that my bracelet is symmetrical. So I wanted to show you what else you can do with the loom, taking this opportunity. So because our threads, the verticals and the horizontal, they actually don't cross paths, right? Our beads are at the moment more positioned on the threads as a direction. They're not stitched to the thread, right? If you know what I mean. So what we can try to do is actually move our bracelet, the whole piece, and position it closer to the center so that it's actually becoming symmetrical, and then we'll decide what to do. So that's exactly what I'm going to try. I hope it will work. In order for that to work, you need to be really attentive to how you put your needle through so that it doesn't split this thread, right? So it doesn't go into that thread, it goes sort of on top of that all the time. If I was lucky and if I made everything correctly, then it will work. So what I'm going to try to do is to actually pull my rows and shift them all together upwards so that my bracelet is just a little bit more centrally positioned, and I hope it will work. So far so good. Let's see. Opa. Yes, it worked. So you see what I managed to do, I actually repositioned my beaded piece so that it's in the center of this length. And now I can decide what to do. What I can do, I can maybe add 1 beige and whatever side, whatever number of the white rows from that side, and also finish it in that side exactly the same. So bead 1 beige row and then finish the other part. It's not the best solution because, as I said, it would be really hard to fit the beads down here on this bottom part. It would be just not very comfortable for the hand to do, but I still prefer the bracelet to be symmetrical, especially with this like stripped design. Again, that's just maybe my approach. You can also compromise and just make one side of the bracelet asymmetrical to the other side. That's also like totally all right. So it's up to you how to make it. But I will probably leave it like this, and then I'll have a little bit of the harsh work from that side. But it's just, again, my approach to making the final piece as symmetrical as possible. So I will now switch to that portion, and we will try to finish the bracelet. I will make the camera again change so that you can see the work as close as possible, because this last piece is actually a little bit tricky. So what I've decided to do, I will do one line of beige beads. And because we're so close to the edge, because of this metallic tube on which our threads are sitting, now our threads are really very far away from each other. So you have to be very careful in positioning them, as well as don't rush, and make sure that all the beads are actually getting through the rows so that your needle is going into the right location, right? So one beige row like this. Again, make sure all the beads and your needle sits on top of the thread. Okay. And now as many white rows as we will be able to fit in. So let's try the first one. Again, press with your finger just so that beads pop up, and that they are on top of your rows. So 1, 2. This one didn't go out. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Pull your rows so that again you have some free space. We are trying to fill as much of that space as we can possibly make it. So I'm picking up another 6 beads. Again, pressing hard with my finger so that all the beads pop up. Go back. Okay. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'll do 4. And then another 2, which are left like this. Okay. So we made one more row, and I will now try to squeeze one more row. That would be like perfect. Let's see if that will work. There is really tiny space left, but I think I will be able to still squeeze 6 more beads into my work. Maybe I'll do them like one by one or in couples, but I really want to be able to, I really want to try to squeeze one more row. So 1 bead. Another bead. Now we need to pop up this guy. Okay, 3. 4. And 2 more. Again, I'm pressing really hard with my left hand so the beads are as close to the surface, as close to my needle as possible. Okay, 5 and 6. That's it. So you see, we try to squeeze one more row here, and we have really tiny ends down here, which is all right. I will explain to you in the next step why this one is okay and it will not interfere. And now what I'll try to do, I'll do the same process here. I'm not going to shoot it because my hands are actually going to probably close the whole screen. Or maybe I'll shoot it and then we'll see later on how is it visible to you, okay? So the thread which was left originally at the beginning of my work is too short. It's not going to be enough for me to finish this part. So I put new thread into the needle, and I also put back the stop bit so that my thread is stable when I'm going to finish this part, because it's actually going to be not very easy. I'll just go a couple of rows with my thread. So from here to here. Okay, and then backwards so that just my thread is a little bit more stable, because I will need some tension here and I just don't want my thread to be loose. Okay. Make sure I keep it enough thread to that later on connected. Okay, so now I'm ready to try add the same amount of rows. So I need 1 beige and 3 whites. 1 beige row of 6 beads. Making sure all the beads are sitting in the right locations between the vertical directional threads. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. And now I need to squeeze 3 white rows at the very, very bottom of the work. And we will find out if I can make it in just a couple of minutes. Again, pressing super hard from the bottom with my left hand so that all the beads are as upwards as I can make it. And then making sure the vertical directional threads are in between my beads. And probably again, I'll do part by part. So I'll do 2. Another 2. And another 2. Again, if you're just beginning your loom work, I wouldn't recommend such complications. I will just recommend to start maybe with some monochrome pieces where the symmetry is not as critical for the design. Or just literally don't be such a perfectionist as me and make one side of the bracelet like asymmetrical to the other side. It's all right. I think it's just at the beginning, it's a little bit of the habit, right? You know, you need to get used to how to work with the loom, how to work with the ends. You might have even a different loom. sort of learning and trying different things. I made quite a few pieces on the loom already. I'll show you later on some examples of what was done on the loom versus what was done using my favorite peyote stitch, because there are some designs which you just cannot do with a peyote, and I will show you at the end of the tutorial what I mean by designs and sort of opportunities you can only do with the loom. Okay, I'm at my second white row out of 3, and it looks like it's actually going to be really challenging to add the third one. All right, so we have 2 beads. Now we need to squeeze those 2 guys here. Okay, 3 and 4. And 2 more. So 1 and another one. Okay, so we squeezed 2 rows, and now I need to try to squeeze 1 more, and for that I will try to pull my beads a little bit up so that I have a little bit more space for the last row I need to squeeze in. I know there are a lot of threads, so sorry for that. They will all go away, don't worry, when the final piece will be made. Okay, so I'm trying to do the last one. So picking up hopefully my last 6 beads, and I need to squeeze them into this tiny little space I have left. One and 2. Now I need to pull up this guy who sits really far behind. This one. Again, trying to make sure my needle is always going on top of the vertical directional threads. All right, so these are 3 and 4. And final 2 beads, which I really need to pop up from bottom. Okay, here we go. So I managed to put all the 6 beads for the 3 rows, and now my bracelet is symmetrical now. So I have like now 3 rows here with 1 beige, and on the bottom side I also have like 1 beige row and 3 whites. So that with that the loom part of the work is finished, and now I'm going to switch my camera one more time for the top view so that you can see how to take it off the loom and what are the final steps. All right, so now our bracelet is finished and we need to take it off the loom, and that's why I switched the view from the camera so that you can see what I'm going to do. On my loom, what I need to do is literally take out this metallic directional holders from the loom. I have those small silicone closures. Actually, these are the earrings, silicone, the holder for the earring, which you can buy in any craft shop. So I'm taking this out from the loom, and then I'm pulling this metallic thing, taking it off from the hooks, and pretty much I'm pulling my bracelet from this metallic tube, carefully of course. Oops. And now I'm freeing this end of the thread. So the first part of my bracelet is freed from the loom, and then I'm repeating this thing from the other side. So just take the bracelet from the metallic connector carefully and free up this second part with the thread. And now, because our rows were so dense, I can just pull them a little bit and they will almost close these white ends on the thread. And I'm going to switch the camera one more time so that I can show it to you closer in a closer view. So that's how I take it off the loom, right? The bracelet, took it from the loom, and now we need to fix those ends which are left from our work. I'll switch the camera and I'll be back in a second. So I left you when I took the bracelet off. Here is the bracelet. I will now just move my loom away so that it doesn't interfere, and that you can clearly see what are the next steps. Okay, so here is now our bracelet. And again, as I said, I'll just carefully free up the rows a little bit so that they are not as dense. And now all we need to do is just to thread through and secure those ends of the thread which are left. There are actually not that many, much less than if you would be using any other type of the loom. So this one is actually easier from my perspective to make it. Here is the bracelet, and pretty much I'm just going to thread through the threads, securing them between the lines. And I will show you how I'm going to do that. So the first thread is just going from here, and all I'm going to do is just thread it through a couple of the rows. Maybe back for the first row so that it's more horizontal. And then somewhere in the middle of the bracelet, maybe I'll just get for 3 beads or 4 beads, whatever. And then I'll just make a normal double knot using the threads which are inside. Just a normal, regular double knot. And then thread it a couple of more times for a couple of more rows of beads. That is it, and then I just cut this thread. That is it. So what I need to do now is just to literally repeat this process for all these threads which I have left. I have actually not that many. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'll fit the threads and then I'll be back. Okay, so now we finished the bracelet. I secured all the threads, and pretty much that's what I have right now. There are multiple ways how you can finish it. I'll show you in a second which type of clasps you can apply, as well as I will also show you what I decided to do with this design as a final piece. Okay, so for the clasps, we have a few options here because it's loom beaded and all beads are like sitting next to each other, like in parallel lines. We can apply different types of clasps. First one is traditional Miyuki clasp, Miyuki tube. It has this tiny little break here, and yes, now you can see that, I think. So pretty much what you do is just like you pull the first row of your beadwork through this separation, and then you close their pliers, you close this cap. You can see my detail is just a little bit big for this type of the design. To make sure, if yours is big as well and you want to make sure that it is symmetrical, what you can also do before you're pulling through this detail, you can actually apply a layer of the glue just around the edge of your bracelet here. And then after you apply the glue, you pull it through and then you keep it glue up for some time so that your clasp is just at the center of your work as you need. Also, you can use this kind of the end clasps. Again, I'm rarely using them. I'm usually working with peyote stitch, so this doesn't apply to peyote because peyote is not lines are not parallel in peyote. But actually, you can also take this type of the clasp and then literally just apply it to the bracelet and then close it. Those tiny little things at the edge, not know how they call them in English, just those triangular things, they're actually going to fit in between the beads very, very stably, and your bracelet will not pull apart. So you can use this type of clasp as well, or similar, but just a little bit different shape. I also have this type of the clasp, which also has the same design, but it's just the shape is not tube, but it's more like, I don't know, semi-oval. And this type of the clasp will also apply to this bracelet, so you just can close it like this. I will show you in a second how I decided to make this final design, and then I will also show you some examples of other loom beaded bracelets so that you know why sometimes I have to choose loom over peyote stitch work. All right, so let me show you some examples of the differences, right? So this bracelet is made with peyote stitch technique. This one is also made with the peyote stitch technique. As you all already know from our previous tutorials, peyote stitch is a little bit like a brick wall. So every bead, every neighboring bead is moved half of the height diagonally. So your design is as if it is a brick wall. So beads are not forming the straight horizontal line. You can form the straight vertical line, but you cannot form the straight horizontal line. So peyote stitch is usually good for different types of asymmetrical designs, or the designs which include like triangular in its shape, right? So this one is a pixel design, like triangular shape. Also, you can use peyote stitch very well with their flower designs like this, for example, so which you already know because that's one of our most popular tutorials on the YouTube channel. So peyote stitch is really good when you have this type of the asymmetrical designs. However, if you need to create a design which includes a straight horizontal line, like this bracelet, for example, you see its design is based on the pure rectangular shape, and I needed to make sure that the border between those three different decors are really visible. So I needed a straight horizontal line to be made. That is impossible with a peyote stitch. The only way to craft such a design is by using loom. So this bracelet is created using the loom technique, as well as, for example, this bracelet also created using the loom technique. Once again, here maybe I didn't need the straight horizontal lines, but I wanted to make sure that those red beads, which are part of the ornament, are located on the same horizontal line. So again, some sort of horizontality was needed to create this design, for example, as well as this design was made on the loom. So sometimes when you're creating something more like ornamental, or if you really need those horizontal lines or vertical, whatever lines, to be part of your decoration, this, or this will be made with the loom technique. Also, if you want it to be more like symmetrical, like this design, for example, it's also made using the loom. Another difference is that when you create the bracelet with the peyote stitch technique, because it is so dense. The beads are so close to each other and they are like this brick wall. Actually, feeling wise, this bracelet seems to be a little bit more dense. I cannot say it's not soft enough, but also on the other hand, it's dense enough, right? So it's more, the beads are more fitted well next to each other together. Whereas when you do something on the loom, your work is really, really soft. So you can see the bracelet twists around and it just really doesn't keep any shape. So that portion, I would say that's the difference. And that's how you can decide which technique or which instrument to use. Is it going to be a peyote stitch or is it going to be loom beaded piece of jewelry? So here is how I decided to finish it in the end. So I beaded yet another line of 2 beads, not on the loom, but just by hand. And then I put it in this peyote clasp at the edge and added just their hook. So it became like a little bit lighter. That's how it looks on the hand. So it's just light summer beaded bracelet. I think it's just good enough. So we tried today a loom technique. I showed you how to start the loom, which loom I'm using, when do you choose loom or beading over some other technologies. So I hope this video was interesting. I know it's something new we're trying, as always we do. So please leave us your comments or questions, or if you want me to, I don't know, show something else or explain some other pieces of the process, and look forward to see your comments online. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press the bell to receive the notifications about our new tutorials. Thank you very much for watching. Happy crafting!